Welcome to the ArmaniTalks YouTube channel. I'm your host, ArmaniTalks. In this channel, I'm covering communication skills for you to level up your way with words and become much more articulate. In today's episode, we're entering the world of social skills, and I'm going to be breaking down my blog, 7 signs of a bad texter. And in the end, you will also be given one bonus tip. Texting is a lot like fashion for men. If you go to a typical guy and you say, "Hey, guy, you should take your fashion a bit more seriously because it will help you in life," this guy is going to respond back and say, "Fashion? Come on, man. Fashion is for girls. Us men, we should be focusing on different things." And due to them not prioritizing fashion, they get judged as incompetent despite being competent. And likewise, you go to a lot of folks and you say, "Hey, you should take your texts a bit more seriously." They're going to respond back and say, "Text? Come on, man. That's not the real me. Wait till they meet me in person." But here's the uncomfortable truth. A lot of folks are not going to meet you in person if you do not pass the vibe check via text. So in this episode, I'm going to be breaking down some signs of a bad texter that you may have had no clue that you were doing. But once you have a clue, do your best to fix it. So let's get started off with number 1. And this one is pretty obvious. Sign number 1 is that they only answer questions but never ask questions back. Have you ever had a moment like that where either you were the person that was asking a lot of questions, or worse, they were asking the questions and you were just responding back? Now, even if this seems harmless, because you may be thinking, well, I'm only responding back because I feel as though they're asking me a line of question to set me up for something, this makes the other person do more work. And whenever we make someone else do more work, charisma walks out the door. The main way that we determine if we're having a fun time with someone is if we're having fun. And fun can happen when both parties are engaged. So if they keep asking you questions, ask something back. And it doesn't even have to be that difficult. Just ask back, "You?" So you're pretty much asking them the same question they asked you back to them. This is a simple way in order to keep the dialogue going. Sign number 2, gives low information responses. Now, by low information, I don't just mean a short text. I mean texts that don't give the other person much to work with. So for example, let's say I am asking you, do you have any siblings? I would say a low information response is, "Yeah," and you just leave it at that. A high information response is, "I do. One of them actually just moved to Texas recently." With the latter response, I am capable of doing more with that. I could ask questions like, "Why did they move for? How did you feel when they moved? Oh, so you have a sibling. Are you guys close? Or do you not even feel it when they're moving?" More leeway. And this is important because when we're initially getting to know someone, we don't really know this person in depth. So whenever they give responses that have high information in it, it gives the person that is asking the question a way out, a way to simply ask a lot of questions, and it just flows. So high information responses are coveted while low information responses are not. Sign number 3, surface level questions. Surface level questions in itself are not bad. An example is, "How are you? How's your day going? What are you doing?" These questions never really allow you to know someone. But I would say that every now and then we could fall back on it because we cannot always ask deep questions. Every now and then we're shooting blanks. So surface level questions are fine. It only becomes a problem when you're only asking those questions, which a lot of people fall in the trap of doing because it's so easy. Every now and then it's fine, but other times you want to spice it up a little bit more and take some risks. Go deeper. Sign number 4, too formal. See, let me read a quote from this blog at this point. What tonality is for speaking skills, emojis are for writing skills. We don't want to overdo it though, but by the way. Now, we don't want to be one of those guys that's just putting emojis in every single message. But every now and then, an emoji does help the other person realize that you're telling a joke. Because it's easy for your personality to have a drop-off when you're converting your personality into text. A lot of the times, you're trying to tell a joke, but the other person has no clue. So a simple LOL, a simple laughing emoji, a simple GIF at times primes them for a comedic experience. Every now and then you want to be informal, not too formal. Sign number 5, too deep. Just like we have the issue of surface level questions and us being too reliant upon it, another issue is when you're too deep. Every time that someone is trying to talk to you, it's like a homework assignment. Explain the meaning of life to me in 500 words or less. The other person is thinking, what the heck? I just had a long day at work and now I'm supposed to concoct something to respond back to this person with. You know what? This actually seems like work. You know what? I'm actually going to hold off on responding back. And suddenly, this person never ends up responding back. Most adults, they live a very serious and lonely life. What they seek is fun. They don't want things to always be serious. Granted, they don't want so much fun where you're just coming off as a clown, but they don't want it to be so serious where it feels as though they're speaking to a college professor. Somewhere in that middle ground territory helps tremendously. So if you're getting too deep, you may want to watch out for that. Sign number 6, you asked me that already. One of the most embarrassing responses to get to a question is, you already asked me that. And this can embarrass the person who is asking the questions. So if you're consistently telling someone, hey, you already asked me that, you got to realize you are embarrassing the other person. And this is where perspective helps a ton. This other person is not only speaking to you. This other person also has a thing called a life. They have coworkers, family, friends, and much more. And they're, let's say in most of their interactions, they're leading the interaction. So they are in charge of thinking of questions on the fly, which by the way, is not easy to do. It's very difficult. And not only are they asking general questions, the surface level ones, how are you doing? They're also getting deeper. What made you choose this hobby in the first place? Tell me about when you got interested in it. General to specific with a multitude of folks. So if every now and then they repeat a question, it's a harmless mistake. Unless it keeps happening, of course. But if it happens every now and then and you say, you already asked me that, then it does two things to the other person. Number one, they begin to second guess everything that they ask you from here on out. Whenever they're about to write something, they're like, wait, did I already ask this person that? And number two is that it embarrasses them so much that they become disengaged from the conversation. And they're like, well, what about you? How about you try to ask some of these questions? So now you just picked up another homework assignment. So that was sign number 6. Sign number 7 is what I call a general butthurt reporting for duty. This is when you are getting really offended, really quick. And for the last one, it was you basically shaming the person for repeating a question to you. For this one, you are shaming the question in itself. What kind of question is that? There was this one time I was talking to this one girl who I knew a decade ago, and she knew my cousin. And a decade later, I got in contact with her, So I didn't really know what her life was like nowadays. So one of the only questions I could ask was, hey, are you and my cousin still friends? You can still chill? And this girl got really mad. She's like, well, what kind of question is that? Why wouldn't we be? And she drags on her response in this dramatic fashion. I'm thinking, I don't know anything about you. I haven't talked to you in a decade. Calm down, respond back to the question, and let's keep this going. But after her outburst like that, I thought, I don't want to talk to you. You get hurt too fast. Okay? So those were the 7 signs. And let me give you a bonus sign. And this is, it takes too long to respond. I believe for a working professional, responding back every couple of hours is more than fine. I don't know how certain people are capable of responding back every 10 to 15 minutes, but for the most part, I would say every couple of hours is fine. But if you're one of those individuals that disappears for days and then you come back, it's always going to be a sign of a deflated conversation. No matter how well you guys are actually vibing when the convo is hidden, if you disappear for days, that other person will always view it as a flat conversation. And let me read you a quote that you really need to understand. The asshole who is consistently seen will be loved more than the charismatic fellow who always goes ghost. Understand that. It doesn't only apply to offline, it applies to online as well. So those are the 7 signs of a bad texter, plus the bonus tip. Did any of them resonate with you? If so, you definitely want to work on that, because texting is where a lot of perception is being molded nowadays. See, once an interaction is done in the real world, we just go about our life. But with texting, it's frozen. And I could always check back my text later on. Very few people are capable of realizing, I already have a very great personality offline. Why don't I just make a couple of tweaks and make my personality pleasant online as well? And if you're one of those rare few that can realize that, then the purpose of today's video has been achieved. If you enjoyed today's talk, drop that like for me right on below and hit subscribe to stay updated for the latest videos on social skills. Thank you very much for joining the ArmaniTalks YouTube channel, and I'll catch you next time.